A 3-year contractual marriage. $20,000 a month, with a $400,000 annual bonus. Party A and Party B will not cohabitate in the same bedroom. Party B is forbidden from touching, hugging, kissing, or having inappropriate thoughts about Party A. Both parties are forbidden from engaging in extramarital affairs, flirtatious behavior, or sexting. I scanned the 21 clauses of the prenuptial agreement, a bitter laugh catching in my throat. Even a stray dog would have more self-respect than to sign this. No amount of money was worth your dignity. I'd read this story before. Hell, I was in it. I was the contract husband to the Ice Queen CEO, Isabel Vance. Except I'd arrived ahead of schedule. This wasn't the part of the story 3 years down the line, where the CEO, realizing her mistake, comes chasing after her ex-husband in a desperate, fiery pursuit of redemption. No, this was chapter 1. Isabel's ex-boyfriend had just left the country to start a business. She was fresh off a nasty breakup, and she decided to lock her heart in a vault and throw away the key. An explosive start. According to the original script, I was supposed to be her loyal, uncomplaining manservant for 3 years, tending to her every whim like she was a princess. Only after I left would she realize she loved me and begin her grand chase. 3 years as a servant to a cold-hearted CEO? Yeah, right? I'd rather chew glass. So when she slid the contract across the table, I didn't hesitate for a second. I signed my name, Ethan Miller. Okay, so maybe I was a hypocrite. I'm a 28-year-old medical resident, 3 years older than Isabel Vance. I'm a small-town kid who clawed his way through Johns Hopkins and now works at Metropolitan General Hospital. I'm currently the youngest attending cardiac surgeon on staff. If I had to sum up my life so far, it'd be with the old saying, don't major in pre-med unless you hate yourself. They're not wrong. The $200,000 for your mother's esophageal cancer treatment has been wired to the hospital's foundation. You'll move out of your apartment and into my house today. This is the housekeeper's number. Call her when you get off your shift. She'll show you to your room. Goodbye, Mr. Miller. Isabel tucked the signed agreement into her purse, stood, and walked away without a backward glance. A wry smile touched my lips. Never thought I'd be worth so much. A family in the middle of nowhere, a mother with cancer, a father who couldn't make ends meet, and a sister in college. The caramel macchiato in this downtown coffee shop was definitely better than the Folgers Instant I usually choke down. The faint bitterness couldn't quite numb the canker, sore burning the inside of my cheek, but the rich aroma cut through the fog of anxiety that had been smothering me for weeks. Whatever the process, the result was the same. The money for Mom's treatment was secured. Late-stage esophageal cancer was one of those diseases you could throw money at endlessly. You could spend $10,000, you could spend $1 million. 200 grand wouldn't guarantee a cure, but the imported experimental drugs it could buy would extend her life and, more importantly, improve the quality of it. To me, that was worth every penny. It wasn't about being some perfect filial son. I just didn't want to live in a world without my mom. If you know, you know. Leaving the coffee shop, I didn't head back to the hospital. I walked into the salon next door. A stylist with a blindingly white smile greeted me. Hey man, what are we doing for you today? I did some quick math in my head. Give me the haircut of a guy worth 20 million bucks. The stylist's smile turned sycophantic. Right on, brother. You wanna, start with a $200 deposit. I walked out of there a new man, transformed from a shaggy-haired mess into a clean-cut, sharp-looking guy. I tossed my black frame glasses, bought a whole new wardrobe. Back at the hospital, heads turned. Before I even made it to my department, I could feel my stock rising in the nurse's unofficial rating system. I'd shot up from a 5.9 to a 9.9. That last missing tenth of a point, I was still poor. Women, so superficial. You want it all, don't you? You find a guy this handsome, and instead of working to support his good looks, you complain that he's broke? No wonder none of the nurse's boyfriends were hot. Ethan. As I reached my department, I ran right into Dr. Chloe Evans. She had a thing for me since med school, but never had the guts to say it. She knew I was stressing about my mom's medical bills, but never offered to lend me money. The author's explanation for this? She was afraid of hurting my pride. Right? My mom was dying. What the hell did I care about pride? 3 years from now, after my divorce, she'd finally get over her fear of wounding my fragile ego and come after me. The ridiculous part? In the book, she actually succeeded. I couldn't wrap my head around that kind of logic. Still, it wasn't her fault she didn't offer. I wasn't about to hold a grudge. "What's up, Chloe?" I said, playing it cool. "Just a haircut." Chloe was my age, but she'd been attending for 3 years already. "It's a long story." "Ethan, it's not just the haircut." "Where are your glasses?" she asked, her eyes scanning my new clothes. Her expression turned serious as she put the pieces together. Her voice trembled. "Did you get a girlfriend?" I didn't hide it. There was no clause in Isabel's contract about secrecy. "Yeah, we're getting the license tomorrow. Actually, have to take the day off." "The license?" Before Chloe could ask more, other colleagues swarmed me, buzzing about my transformation. The air was thick with a mix of envy, jealousy, and admiration. In a world of overworked, balding by 30 medical residents, I was suddenly in a league of my own. Watching me laugh and joke with everyone, Chloe looked heartbroken. She couldn't understand how I could suddenly be getting married. Had he sold himself for the medical bills? After the crowd thinned, she found her courage. "Ethan, is this about your mom's illness?" I didn't lie. 200 grand just hit the account. "Go ahead, judge me. It's not a crime to do what you have to for money." But Chloe didn't judge. Her voice was a plea. "Ethan, I could have." "It's too late. The contract signed. 9-figure penalty for breaking it." The color drained from her face. She raised a hand as if to stop me, then let it fall defeated. I pretended not to notice. Fate, it turns out, is a function of character. Isabel Vance's mansion was smaller than the ones on TV. She only had a staff of 5 living in, a housekeeper in her 40s and 4 younger maids. There were also drivers, bodyguards, and gardeners, but they lived off-site. The next time I saw Isabel was at the dinner table. She came downstairs in a set of conservative, ugly pajamas. The moment she saw me, her eyes lit up like a pair of high beams hitting a deer on a dark country road. Blinding. "Ethan Miller?" I gave a non-committal nod, my version of a greeting, and went back to the food. It was incredible, better than anything I'd ever tasted. In the original story, I won her over with my cooking. This time, I wasn't about to compete with the household staff. Why is it that every fictional ice queen has a sensitive stomach? And why does every male protagonist have to be a secret chef who makes her some special, stomach-soothing soup? Well, I can't cook, and I wasn't about to learn. "Ethan, we need to add a clause to the agreement." She paused as if worried I'd refuse. Just a tiny one. I had a feeling Isabel was, at her core, a decent person. I nodded my assent without asking for details. A flicker of a smile crossed her cool features. She took out the contract and, with a pen, added a 0 to one of the clauses. The 9-figure penalty just became a 10-figure one. Seeing my stunned expression, her face hardened. "You agreed." In that second, I wanted to strangle her. Isabel Vance. The name was a perfect blend of beauty, intelligence, and ruthless cunning. After dinner, she headed upstairs. "Good night, Mr. Miller. Time for a counterattack." "Good night, Mrs. Vance." Isabel paused on the stairs. A genuine smile, a rare sight, touched her lips. "See you tomorrow." 10 o'clock the next morning, we walked out of City Hall with our marriage license. One for each of us. For Isabel, it was just another item on her to-do list. She had us take a photo, which she immediately posted to Instagram, deliberately taking my hand for the shot. "Happy wedding day, Ethan." I rubbed my nose. "Happy contractual obligation day. I have to get to the hospital, Isabel." As I turned and walked away, utterly devoid of chivalry, I heard her laugh softly behind me. An interesting man. I didn't post anything. It felt awkward and frankly unnecessary, but trouble found me anyway. Not long after I got to the hospital, a message popped up on my phone. "I know why Isabel married you. Thanks for taking care of her for me. You're a smart guy. I'll buy you a drink when I get back." It was her ex, Blake Harrington. A drink? What kind? A celebratory toast or a poisoned chalice? Isabel really had terrible taste in men. Her ex couldn't even wait a month before showing his hand. Where was the self-control? The subtlety? The class? I wasn't the type to turn the other cheek. I typed back immediately. "Isabel has a big heart. My mom has cancer, and she wants a grandchild before it's too late. We'll have you over for a drink when you're back in town. Let's see whose round is more satisfying, pal. Time to work." I screenshotted the exchange, sent it to Isabel, tossed my phone aside, and put on my white coat. The world's most handsome doctor was on the clock. Today, I was first assistant on a heart valve replacement. The patient was older, so we were looking at a 5-hour procedure. My hands were long and steady, moving in perfect sync with the attending surgeon. My skills were on par with my looks. 5 hours later, I'd earned the praise of the chief of surgery. I even managed a few compliments in return. He clapped me on the shoulder. "Something's different about you today, Miller. You're smiling. Got some good news to share." The chief was in his 40s, the prime of his surgical career. I needed to stay on his good side. There's no shame in kissing up for more time. "Got married this morning, Dr. Matthews. To all my friends here, I'll buy you all a drink to celebrate soon." The room went silent, then erupted in shock. The news spread through the hospital's group chats like wildfire. The sound of nurses' hearts breaking was almost audible. And my rating? It finally hit a perfect 100. The unattainable man. I was on call that night. I checked my text with Isabel. The last message was the screenshot I'd sent her. No reply. I guess she didn't care. On call. Home late. I texted. Without waiting for a response, I opened my laptop to review the video of today's surgery. As a normal guy in an abnormal world, I had to arm myself with knowledge and diligence. Isabel Vance was my best path up the ladder, but it was also the most treacherous. That's why I refused to play the part of the devoted lapdog from the original script. No more rushing home to practice cooking, no delivering meals to her office, no forced conversations, and definitely no saving up for months to buy her some ridiculously expensive gift. Seriously, what was the office thinking? A gift that cost a few months of a resident's salary? Who was that supposed to impress? Isabel Vance wouldn't look twice at anything under 6 figures. "Ethan, have something to eat." Chloe appeared with a small plate of pastries and 2 glasses of juice. A thoughtful woman always knows what you need. The juice was packed with vitamins to help my canker sore heal. "Thanks, Chloe." We sat there, side by side, eating and watching the surgery playback on my laptop. We discussed technique for a while, and then she packed up to leave. She forced a smile as she walked away. "Ethan, you got married today. Aren't you going to celebrate?" I didn't look up from the screen, just shook my head in silence. Around 1 a.m, my phone rang. It was Isabel's number. "Is this Ethan Miller?" A woman's voice slurred. "Your wife is wasted. She wants you to come get her." I frowned. I hated this kind of drama. If it were for work, fine. But this was clearly Isabel, provoked by my getting married, drinking her sorrows away. But I agreed to go. The ink wasn't even dry on the check. The destination was a club downtown called Noir. I wasn't worried about Isabel's safety. The owner of a place like this made sure his wealthy clientele was well protected. The whole trope of girls getting roofied and taken advantage of was just bad TV. I didn't go inside. I called and told them to bring her out. A few minutes later, 3 women stumbled out to the parking lot, propping up a very drunk Isabel. A woman with curly auburn hair started yelling the second she saw me. "Ethan Miller, do you have any concept of chivalry? Your wife is hammered. You couldn't even come inside to get her. God, you are so pathetic. What a loser." I recognized her. Jenna, one of Isabel's so-called best friends. Nope. I took Isabel from them, unlocked the car, and eased her into the back seat. As I was about to get in and drive, Isabel's 3 friends looked at each other and piled into the car. Right? They didn't trust me. Fine by me. I had no desire to babysit a drunk. Jenna got into the passenger seat, still spoiling for a fight. "Why couldn't you?" This woman was a broken record. I started the car and said casually, "I was scared." Jenna scoffed. "Scared of what? A big man like you is afraid to go into a bar." I shook my head. I was afraid of unleashing the beast. One of the women in the back leaned forward, interested. "Oh, what beast is that?" I smiled. "My inner scumbag." The 3 of them went silent. When we got back to the house, the housekeeper and several maids came out at the sound of the car. They helped get Isabel settled. The second floor was my forbidden zone. I had to get back to the hospital anyway. I couldn't be away from my shift for too long. "Ethan, you saw her," Jenna said, blocking my path. "Isabel is a wreck over Blake. You're a spineless loser. You should know your place." A smaller woman in a pink dress rushed forward to stop her. "Jenna, don't say that." Then, to me, apologetically, "Ethan, I'm so sorry. She's had too much to drink." I smiled. Being drunk is never an excuse for being an ass. A spineless loser. Maybe I was. I'd take her money. But only Isabel Vance got to call me that. Anyone else? Off limits. "You know, Jenna," I said conversationally, The only differences between you and me are that I'm broke and I have self-respect. A woman without self-respect is just a notch on some guy's bedpost. A story he tells his buddies at the bar. Your precious Blake once told me about the first time you cried and called him daddy. You, you. Jenna stammered, her face white with terror, and then her legs gave out and she collapsed. I laughed. That's all it took. I glanced at the other two women. One of them, an elegant woman in a black blazer, turned and practically ran out of the house. The woman in pink, however, remained calm and knelt to help Jenna. Ethan, you should get back to the hospital. I'll take care of things here. I nodded. This was Sophia, the only one of Isabel's 3 friends with any decency. The only one who actually cared about her. Too bad the story had her falling for a con artist who would eventually ruin her. A week later, my dad brought my mom to the city. I'd already scheduled her an appointment with Dr. Lou, one of the top oncologists, so she was admitted and settled into a room by the afternoon. Chloe came by to help, which earned her a series of probing questions from my mom, who was trying to figure out who this pretty young doctor was. Chloe just smiled and awkwardly deflected, until Isabel showed up. She must have come straight from the office, dressed in a sharp, tailored black suit, her long hair pulled back. She radiated power. She walked into the room and greeted my parents with a warm, "Mom, Dad." My parents froze, looking at me for an explanation. I was just as stunned as they were. Something was wrong with this woman. The original story said that for 3 years, she never met my parents and never came home with me for the holidays. We'd been married for a week. We were both busy. I'd only seen her once since the night she got drunk. We were barely more than strangers. "Mom, Dad, this is Isabel Vance. We're married." I gave them the short version, leaving out the part about the contract. They didn't believe me, even when I showed them the marriage license. In their eyes, Isabel was a goddess from another world. The goddess didn't just fall for the farm boy. The farm boy must have tricked her. My parents were terrified I was the villain in a fairy tale. It wasn't until Isabel herself told them we were in love and had gotten married willingly that they finally relaxed. I drove Isabel home to thank her for coming to see my parents. In the elevator alone, her mask dropped. She looked exhausted. It was the right thing to do. I didn't buy it. That wasn't the Isabel from a script. I racked my brain, but couldn't figure out why she was suddenly going off book. Was it because I wasn't fawning all over her? Because I put her friend in her place? As for her best friend sleeping with her ex, Isabel was from the world of the mega-rich. She had to be used to that kind of thing, right? The elevator doors opened, and her queenly persona snapped back into place. She took my arm. This was the main elevator lobby of the hospital, bustling with people. When I tried to pull away, she held on tighter. "Ethan, I've stopped drinking. One night of drinking, and I lost 2 friends and gained a rival for your affection. So, can we add another clause to the agreement, forbidding both parties from entering bars, clubs?" I looked down and saw an expression of genuine vulnerability on her face. I was floored. What in the world was wrong with this woman? Back at the house, the atmosphere was thick with tension. A regal-looking woman was sitting on the sofa, waiting for us. She looked a lot like Isabel. This had to be the mother-in-law. "Mom, what are you doing here?" Isabel asked, casually trying to hand me her handbag. I didn't take it. I ignored her and bent down to change my shoes. This wasn't about pride or being difficult. You think a woman like her, who's been waited on her entire life, just hands you her bag? Wrong. It was a compliance test. Today you take her bag, tomorrow you're taking off her shoes. One step at a time, you become her butler. Then come the labels: spineless, house husband, male nanny. The original Ethan fell for it, even stooping to kneel and put on her shoes for her. No wonder she never respected him. "Mom's here. Ethan, you chat with her for a bit. I'm gonna go change," Isabel said, not missing a beat. She handed her bag to a maid who had stepped forward and went upstairs. Her mother, Victoria Vance, sat with aristocratic poise. She pointed to the chair opposite her. "Sit." The moment I sat, she commanded, "Pour the tea." I thought she wanted a cup and started to get up, but a maid placed a teacup in my hand. I didn't understand what happened next. The maid started pouring hot water from a kettle into my cup. It was hot, way hotter than it should have been. The cup filled, but she kept pouring. "The wealthy have their rules, Ethan. Today is your first lesson." Victoria began. The scalding water overflowed, burning my hand. The cup slipped, and hot water splashed all over her face. "Ah!" she shrieked, jumping around like a scalded monkey, all her elegance gone. Did she really think I would sit there and let myself be burned for 3 minutes like in the original story? "House rules," she screeched, still determined to establish her dominance. At her words, 2 burly female staff members stepped forward, hands raised to slap me. They were aiming for my face. I wasn't some weak-kneed academic. I could stand for 10 hours in surgery. I knew how to handle myself. 2 sharp kicks. The 2 women went down. They weren't stupid. They hit the floor and played dead. Victoria finally stopped screaming, her face red from the tea. Too bad it wasn't boiling, I thought. "Ethan, if you want to be a part of this family, you will follow our rules," she seethed. "Or else." I just clicked my tongue. She was losing it, spouting such clumsy threats. Since she wasn't playing nice, it was my turn. I leaned in close to her ear and whispered, "Victoria, or should I say, Sharon, it's been 25 years. Have you forgotten your own name? Your sister's been waiting for you downstairs." "How do you?" she gasped, stumbling backward, nearly turning to run. Her expression shifted wildly for a full 5 minutes. Under my smiling gaze, she understood. If I knew that name, I knew what happened. She glanced upstairs, realizing Isabel must not know her mother's true identity. She panicked. "Ethan, that was my mistake. I burned you. I'm willing to offer $5 million in compensation. Is $10 million enough?" It was tempting, but I couldn't take it. If I took that money, Isabel would kill me later. She hated being deceived by those close to her. "Ethan, Mom can't." Just then, Isabel came downstairs. She saw the chaotic scene and demanded, "Mom, were you bullying Ethan? He's my husband, not some kept man. Can you stop with these ridiculous, antiquated rules just to prove you're the powerful mother-in-law?" Victoria immediately changed her tune. "You're right, Isabel. Mom was wrong. I'll apologize to Ethan properly later. You 2 get some rest. I'll come back another day." With that, she turned and fled. The 2 women, playing dead on the floor, scrambled back to the staff quarters. Isabel watched her mother's hasty retreat, baffled. Then she looked at me, standing there like an innocent lamb. She rubbed her temples. Neither of us was easy to manage. "I'm sorry. I never thought my mother would." I was a little shocked. Isabel Vance never apologized. Why the sudden change? Had she transmigrated too? I just shrugged. If you don't love someone, their family drama doesn't matter. Isabel came over and checked me carefully for injuries. When she saw I was fine, she relaxed. Then she nonchalantly walked over to where her mother had been sitting and reached for a book left on the table. I knew what it was. I snatched it first. How to Affair-Proof Your Trophy Husband. 108 Essential Rules. I snorted, asking deliberately, "Worried about me? Do you have a book about how to keep you from cheating?" For the first time, Isabel blushed, a deep red of shame and anger. She tried to regain her composure. "I do." She went into her study and came back with an even thicker volume. The Unfaithful Heiress. 1,000 Ways to Keep Your Wife Loyal. A silent curse echoed in my mind. Holy shit. In the original story, Isabel never let me see this book. I flipped it open randomly. Chapter 1. How to Guard Against Her Best Friends. Chapter 2. How to Guard Against Her Husband. I pursed my lips. The part about the friends was true. The part about the husband, well, I wasn't into that. Isabel tossed both books into the trash. "You must think these are ridiculous, right? I never actually read them. I trust myself." I agreed with her sentiment. "But your best friend is going to drug you in 3 years. You almost get assaulted." I picked the books out of the trash. "Actually, they might be worth a look. You didn't even know about Jenna and Blake, did you?" Isabel's expression was cool. "That's why she's not my friend anymore. I've blocked them both." I didn't believe it. This woman didn't yet understand the destructive power of a first love. The pull of what she couldn't have would make her abandon her principles. We'd have to see what happened in 3 years. Except I never expected the plot to change so drastically. Blake Harrington was back in the country. In the original story, he didn't return for 3 years. Now, he'd been gone for less than a month. One afternoon before my shift ended, my phone buzzed with a series of photos. In them, Isabel and Blake looked intimate, walking hand in hand into a fancy restaurant. Isabel seated, while Blake leaned over her, about to kiss her cheek. The 2 of them raising glasses, a certain spark in their eyes. A bouquet of roses on the table. Blake, on one knee, holding up a 12-carat pink diamond, his face a mask of devotion. A crowd of onlookers cheering. Isabel looking shy and overwhelmed. I studied the photos so intently that I didn't notice Chloe approach. "Ethan, you must be heartbroken." I burst out laughing, the gloom of the past weeks vanishing. "No, Chloe, this is evidence. This is my get-out-of-jail-free card." Chloe, flustered, reached for my hand, but I took a deliberate step back. The move made her face fall. I quickly explained, "The world of the rich is a dirty place. Someone is watching me. The contract says I can't have any kind of intimate contact with another woman." The moment Blake sent those photos, I knew. The plot had just jumped forward 3 years. The reason was probably me. I hadn't played the part of the lapdog. In the eyes of the world, a woman like Isabel Vance would never fall for a sycophant. Plus, I'd exposed the affair between Blake and Jenna. Her first love couldn't stand it. He'd come running back to reclaim his territory. Chloe's expression softened with relief and then with pity. She deeply regretted her earlier cowardice. She had the $200,000. She could have lent it to me. "Ethan, I've been approved for an exchange program at the Mechnikov Clinic in Switzerland. I leave in a week." This part of Chloe's story was unchanged. I offered her a genuine smile. "Chloe, congratulations. I might end up over there myself one day. I hope you'll show me the ropes." She gave me a long, complicated look, a look I couldn't return. Love really does take courage. Dr. Miller, patient in 108, is complaining of chest tightness and palpitations. I grabbed my stethoscope and calmly walked over. The patient was beautiful, or more accurately, seductive. She was wearing a hospital gown with the third button undone. More provocatively, she wasn't wearing a bra. She looked like she was at death's door. "Doctor, my chest. It's so tight. My heart hurts. Am I having a heart attack?" If I stepped forward to examine her, someone would snap a photo and I'd be reported. If I didn't, I was her doctor and it was my duty. In the original script, the patient grabs me during the exam, pressing herself against me. It ends up all over the internet. I get suspended for a week while they investigate. Isabel starts to despise me. 2 nurses were getting anxious, urging me forward. "Dr. Miller, you have to look at her. What should we do?" The patient's voice was a mere whisper. "Doctor, save me." The tension was thick enough to cut with a knife. I had to play along. I raised my voice and ordered the nurses, "Page the ER now. We're transferring her, and get her prepped for an immediate heart transplant." At the mention of a transplant, both the patient and the nurses froze. But I didn't give them time to think. I started pushing her bed toward the door. "Don't worry," I said reassuringly. "I'm taking you to the or myself." The patient shot up like a bolt of lightning and pointed a finger at me. "Fuck you. You want to cut out my heart? I'm reporting this hospital." "Quack. You're a fucking quack." I feigned shock. The patient is hallucinating. Possible brain tumor. Get a consult from oncology, stat. Consult my ass. The patient couldn't take it anymore. She imagined being sedated, waking up with half her brain gone and a new heart. Yeah. She leaped out of bed and sprinted out of the room. She didn't even wait for the elevator, just bolted for the stairs. Usain Bolt would have been impressed. Though the farce was over, after she fled, I contacted hospital security and the medical affairs office. It was 11 at night when I got home. Isabel was waiting for me on the sofa, her face a thundercloud. She held out her phone. "Explain." I glanced at it. Trending number 3 online. Metrogen quack sexually assaults patient. Misdiagnoses heart attack as tumor. The headline was pure clickbait. Prestigious hospital, quack doctor, sexual assault, misdiagnosis. All the buzzwords. I didn't bother reading the comments. I looked at Isabel. "Do you believe me? Or do you believe the news?" Isabel gave a cold laugh. "If I didn't believe you, I wouldn't have let you in the door." Turnabout is fair play. I tossed her my phone. "Your turn to explain." Isabel calmly took my phone. One look, and her pupils constricted. She looked up, her eyes red-rimmed. "Do you believe me, or do you believe the pictures?" I smirked. "If I didn't believe you, I wouldn't have opened the door." In a relationship, the worst thing isn't a breakup. It's misunderstanding, silence, and a refusal to communicate. Isabel pulled out a voice recorder and took off her watch. I was set up. The truth is all here. I knew her watch was modified, equipped with GPS and audio and video recording, but I didn't need to see it. Isabel might cheat, but she wouldn't lie about it. Is this disgusting stuff going to keep happening? I asked. Isabel nodded. In my world, backstabbing is part of the game. But I'll protect you. She looked at me intently. A guy needs to protect himself out there. Cute young nurses, cold female doctors, warm-hearted old flames. I scoffed. Isabel Vance gets jealous? She looked almost hurt. I didn't used to love you. Now I get jealous. I didn't respond, just turned and went to my room. Isabel knew she was losing her composure, but she found she enjoyed the feeling of being trusted. The Harringtons. Huh, she muttered to herself. 2 days later, the department chief dropped a bombshell on me. First assistant on an off-pump coronary artery bypass. Beating heart surgery. It was a class 4 major operation. At my level, I was barely qualified to be second assistant, let alone first. Something was off. In the original story, 3 years from now, I'd be the lead surgeon on a major operation and get framed for malpractice. The consequences, the resources of the wealthy were vast. Crushing a normal person was child's play. 4 o'clock in the afternoon. The surgery began. Scalpel. Let's see how pretty this little heart is, said Dr. Cole, the lead surgeon. He had a reputation for his morbid sense of humor. You couldn't work with him if you were easily distracted. Mid-surgery. Miller. Open up a bit more. The gap's too small. This thing's got a big head. Can't get it in. Miller. Feel that? The magic of a beating heart in your hands. Miller. You're the first man to ever touch her heart. You're responsible for it now. I glanced at the patient's unshaven, whiskered face and kept my focus. 3 hours in, halfway through the procedure, the lead surgeon ordered a dose of epinephrine. I ignored him, my full attention on my hands. Stop. The disruption came. It was Chloe, who had been a silent observer in the OR, her voice sharp and commanding. A nurse had been about to inject an additional drug into the 4-line. Chlorphenamine, a drug that speeds up the heart rate. On its own, it wouldn't do much damage. But combined with the epinephrine that was just about to be administered, 2 heart-accelerating drugs at once would have been like a bomb going off in the patient's chest. I let out a slow breath. Thank God I'd asked Chloe to be here. After the surgery, the nurse confessed she'd been put up to it, but didn't know by whom. As Chloe and I walked out of the OR, she looked worried. This was aimed at you. Will the other doctors hold it against you? Maybe you should come to Switzerland with me. I shook my head. Here in the States, Blake wouldn't dare make a direct move. If I went abroad, I'd be kidnapped on day 1. Blake's attacks were relentless. He thought I wasn't in his league. He was wrong. So on my day off, I put on a custom-tailored suit, got my hairstyle. Basically, I went for A-list celebrity. I went to Vance Industries. I'd called ahead. Isabel's executive assistant, Dana, was waiting for me in the lobby. I had a clear path straight to the CEO's office. Isabel was buried in paperwork. The office is for business. I've already booked our tickets to Scandinavia. Next week, for our honeymoon. This was the quintessential alpha CEO. She went where she wanted, when she wanted, with no regard for your schedule. She showed affection on her own terms, even if her methods were all wrong. This is business, I said. Blake Harrington. Isabel cut me off. Is he more important than our honeymoon? I met her gaze. My lack of him is. A smile played on Isabel's lips, then grew into a laugh, and finally, she was laughing so hard tears streamed down her face. After a moment, she leaned on her desk for support. The way you say such ruthless things with such a straight face. It's adorable. She was Isabel Vance, after all. Vengeance was in her nature. She pulled out a few files. This is the dirt I've gathered on the Harrington family so far. But it's not enough. I was going to keep playing along with him, but I was afraid you'd misunderstand. So, I have no choice but to go on the offensive. I wasn't the kind of pathetic man from a TV drama who lets a woman fight his battles alone. This is what I've prepared. Take a look. Isabel took the papers from my hand. The overpass on Route 230 between Williamsport and Greensburg. The pile caps were poured with C25 concrete. The MT, Sterling Expressway project in an active landslide zone, used C15 concrete. Isabel's face grew more grim with every line she read. A 40-meter-high pile cap required C40 concrete. A highway in a high-risk landslide area needed C40 or higher. For Harrington Construction to cut corners like this, were they not afraid of a catastrophic failure? She sighed, looking at me with new eyes. Ethan, I never would have thought a recent graduate like you. She paused. Her curiosity piqued. Do you have a file like this on Vance Industries? I said nothing, just gave a slight smile. A husband and wife are one and the same. Isabel was silent for a long time. Birds of feather flock together, she thought, choosing to ignore the rest of the saying. She tapped her pen on the desk. We'll have the wedding next month. On our wedding night, you'll move into the master bedroom. A year from now, I want to have a child. After the baby is born, you can request a DNA test whenever you like. This time, it was my turn to be silent. The offer was generous. Isabel's love was a blazing fire. Chloe's was a gentle stream. Men hate multiple-choice questions. The storm that hit Williamsport was biblical. The day after the rain stopped, 2 empty semi-trucks were driving slowly, one behind the other, across the Route 230 overpass. A white sedan followed behind them. Suddenly, the impossible happened. The driver of the sedan saw it clearly. The 2 massive trucks in front of him seemed to tip over in slow motion, as if they were drunk. Like something out of a sci-fi movie, the entire bridge deck flipped on its side. With a deafening roar, the 2 trucks and a massive section of the overpass plummeted to the ground below. The sedan driver was frozen in terror. Isabel got the news quickly. She was relieved to hear the 2 drivers were only seriously injured, but a chill ran down her spine. She opened her phone and looked at the photo of her handsome, clean-cut husband. She sighed. She thought I was a harmless kitten she could easily control. She never imagined a tiger lived inside. And tigers, she knew, were predators. With one simple plan, he had brought down Harrington Construction. His strategic mind was 100 times more ruthless than her own. Isabel wasn't afraid. In fact, she smiled. This is my true soulmate. She didn't need a house husband. She certainly didn't need a lapdog. She needed a partner whose frequency matched her own. Harrington Construction collapsed faster than anyone expected. The video of the overpass disaster went viral on every social media platform, dominating the top of every trending list. They couldn't pay to have it deleted fast enough. Public opinion was a tidal wave, carrying with it the force of law and justice, and it annihilated them. No one ever knew who was truly behind it. Tonight, Blake Harrington came to the house. Jenna brought him. This was the first time I'd seen him in person. He wore a wrinkled suit, his hair was a mess, and he was unshaven. He reeked of stale booze and cigarettes. He was no longer the arrogant, powerful CEO, but a pathetic, broken man. Jenna didn't look much better. Her clothes seemed ill-fitting. What are you 2 doing here? Isabel's voice was laced with venom. She hated anything or anyone that disturbed her peace. I don't welcome stray dogs in my home. Thud. Blake Harrington fell to his knees. Isabel, please, for the sake of the years we had together, let my family go. Blake knew Isabel. He crawled on his knees toward me. Dr. Miller, I was wrong. I shouldn't have been jealous. I shouldn't have framed you. Please, ask Isabel to have mercy. She loves you. She'll listen to you. Watching the blubbering mess before me, I felt no pity. In the original story, he was far worse. Given the chance, he would have had my hands broken so I could never hold a scalpel again. He would have arranged a car accident and had me sterilized. He would have done anything and everything to destroy me. Blake, even in defeat, tried to have some dignity. Dr. Miller. Jenna knelt at my feet, her voice a desperate plea. Dr. Miller, I'm pregnant with a child. Please ask Isabel to let us go. We'll leave the country. We'll never come back. My eyes lit up. That was a great idea. In the story, when I went abroad, Chloe protected me, but Blake still came after me, determined to crush me completely. If Isabel hadn't started her ridiculous cross-continental pursuit, I probably would have ended up in an unmarked grave overseas. Isabel and I were so in sync now that she knew with a single glance I was thinking about tying up this loose end permanently while they were abroad. But this time, she didn't agree. The variables overseas were too great. Vance Industries' power didn't extend far enough to clash with certain foreign entities. Blake, having grown up with Isabel, saw the shift in her expression and knew she wouldn't let him go. In a fit of madness, he pulled out a dagger and lunged at her, screaming, "Die! Isabel Vance, how could you fall for a piece of trailer trash?" I didn't move. Isabel didn't move. But one of the maids did. In a flash, she grabbed Blake's knife hand, twisted his arm, and threw him to the ground. There was a sickening crack as his wrist broke. He howled in pain. I wasn't surprised by this melodramatic turn of events. It happened in the original story, too. Only then it was Isabel who heroically jumped in front of the knife. Now, it was a maid. TSK. It seems her performance during my mother-in-law's visit was just that, a performance. And I've been so proud of myself. How embarrassing. In seconds, bodyguards swarmed in from outside, dragging Blake and Jenna away. Once the mess was cleaned up, Isabel and I sat back down on the sofa. She handed me a glass of milk. Weren't you afraid I'd get hurt? I could hear the disappointment in her voice. Every woman wants her man to protect her. I'm a doctor. I can save you. Pfft. She playfully blew a raspberry in my direction. Just drink your milk. Tonight's rehearsal is for our wedding night. The plot had gone completely off the rails. Blake was in prison 3 years early. Jenna was pregnant 3 years early. I hadn't left the country. It seemed Isabel would have no chance to chase me across the globe. I thought, for a moment, that my life might finally settle into something resembling normal. I was wrong. The battle for control of Vance Industries was just heating up. Isabel was the eldest. She had a younger brother. In the original story, Isabel's regret-fueled pursuit of me cost her everything, including her career. After she took a knife from me and still failed to win me back, she became disillusioned and left Vance Industries. Her brother took over. Throughout that whole saga, her parents were ghosts. They never intervened, never cared that their daughter was self-destructing. None of it made sense. But now, Isabel had sent her first love to prison. To the outside world, we were a blissfully happy, newlywed couple. For the time being, she had no weaknesses. But I knew the internal battle at Vance Industries was going to be brutal. I had already told Isabel the truth about her mother actually being her aunt. I had also hinted that her half-brother would make a play for the company. Isabel told me not to worry, that she would handle it. I relaxed, trusting in her abilities. Sometime later, my mom was discharged from the hospital. Isabel was overseas on business and couldn't be there, but she bought my parents a house, hoping they'd stay in the city and retire. But they insisted on going back home. I had no choice but to drive them to the train station, promising to visit during my next vacation. Maybe it was my protagonist's luck, but on the drive back, I got the distinct feeling I was being followed. Trusting my gut, I pulled into a charging station, took off my jacket, hung it on the driver's seat, and buckled the seat belt over it. Then I got out, pretending to plug in the car. In reality, I slipped away and hailed a cab, putting 6 miles between me and the station. I opened the M9 rideshare app on my phone and hit the summon vehicle button for my own car. Sure enough, less than 5 minutes later, I got a notification that my car had been in an accident. How could I miss something so exciting? I immediately got another cab and headed to the crash site, simultaneously calling the head of Isabel's security detail, a man whose number she had given me for emergencies. When I arrived, I was stunned. A black Range Rover was repeatedly ramming my car, even after it had been flipped onto its roof. Finally, with a deafening boom, the electric vehicle's battery exploded. Flames engulfed my car. The door of the Range Rover opened, and Jenna stumbled out, clutching her stomach. I thought Isabel had forced her to leave the country. Ha ha, Ethan Miller. You deserve this. You deserve to go to hell. Jenna shrieked at the scene, a crazed look in her eyes. A trickle of blood ran down her legs. It looked like her get-out-of-jail-free card was about to miscarry. I hadn't planned on provoking her further, but then I saw the head of security, Captain Jones, arriving with his team. I changed my mind. Jenna, you hate me that much? I called out. Aren't you afraid of what Isabel will do to you? Hearing my voice, Jenna let out a piercing scream. Ethan Miller. You're not dead. You. She spun around, clutching her stomach. When she saw me, her eyes rolled back in her head, and she fainted. I was speechless. She fainted from shock. With that little courage, how did she work up the nerve to ram my car? It was clear Jenna was just a pawn. My phone rang. It was Isabel. Honey, are you okay? This is my fault. I never thought Jenna would dare come back, especially while pregnant. I'll get to the bottom of this. I quickly recounted what happened, reassured her I was fine, and hung up. Captain Jones personally escorted me back to the mansion. Isabel's orders were that I was not to leave the house until she returned. I understood. The final battle was about to begin. I couldn't help her, so I might as well rest. A week later, Isabel returned, safe and sound. She asked me to pick her up from the airport. It seemed the dust had finally settled. At the airport, Sophia, Isabel's only remaining true friend, was with her. She smiled when she saw me. My brother-in-law gets more handsome and charismatic every day. You're a prize, Ethan. Isabel doesn't deserve you anymore. Isabel, seeing me after so long, dropped all her pretenses and threw herself into my arms. She tilted her head up, asking for a kiss. I smiled. See? So much for the Ice Queen. You don't conquer her by being a lapdog. Of course, I had to admit, I had been conquered by her fierce, love with abandon personality too. Hey, you two, get a room. Sophia laughed, pulling a man forward from behind her. Ethan, this is my boyfriend, Marcus Thorne. Marcus, this is Dr. Ethan Miller, the man I was telling you about. Isabel's husband. The moment I heard the name Marcus Thorne, my expression changed. This was the master con artist from the book, the one who scammed Sophia and her family out of their entire fortune. Isabel noticed my reaction and shot a discreet, assessing look at Marcus. In her mind, she drew a massive X over his face. I sighed internally. It seems no one ever reads The Unfaithful Heiress. 1,000 Ways to Keep Your Wife Loyal. Turns out it was a manual for the husband. One Blake Harrington was gone, only to be replaced by a Marcus Thorne. Next, it would probably be some other self-proclaimed protagonist. At that thought, I laughed out loud. I was finally starting to understand what it meant to be a billionaire's husband. The game was endless, and the fun was in the fight. End.